On there, guys. Welcome to CR3 Christian Radio for the Trinity. And I just wanted to do a quick video on obviously what happened with Stephen Lawson. And I did want to talk about just his books in general. So this one is Root and Fruit, Harmonizing Paul and James on Justification by Joel Beakey and Stephen J. Lawson. And the question I really want to address is, what do we do with the material, with the books that he has, now that it came out that he was in an inappropriate relationship with another woman? And so first thing is have patience, right? We don't have all the details, and so we want to be patient. I wouldn't just throw out this book, for example. Also, and I'll get to the last part of it, I would actually read it, and I'll explain why. So patience, really important, just to not just jump the gun here. Obviously, I would like to hear a statement from Stephen Lawson himself, and then, of course, maybe Ligonier, since he is no longer a teaching fellow. The Trinity Church obviously already had a statement out, and we don't need to know all the details, of course, but because he was someone that a lot of people looked up to, maybe you were considering the Academy of Expository Preaching or Doctor of Ministry at the Master's Seminary. Obviously he was the dean there, and so you might be thinking, well, what do I do now? Now that he's no longer there. Again, he is a man. He's a sinner, and sinners fall. And so in this case, obviously, he's no longer qualified or fit to be a pastor, according to the elders there at that church in Texas. And we'll see what he says. We'll see if anything else comes out. And so, yeah, first thing I would say is have patience. Secondly, obviously, prayer. We should be praying for him, his family. We should be praying for everyone involved, obviously the church, and then, of course, for ourselves to understand that we are all weak. We really need accountability. We need the local church. We need to hold each other accountable and be responsible in that regard, and really checking up on one another and saying, how are you doing, brother? Are you struggling with any spiritual sins? Are you falling into temptation? And this is going to really help us as we engage in our battle with sexual temptation. For other pastors or elders, deacons, wherever you may fall, a lay person at your church, we all have temptations, and so that's why we need accountability. And then lastly, a plead, just really understanding how important it is to prepare and persevere. Prepare by being in the Word of God, by being at a local church. I was thinking of getting this book by David Mattis, and I was reading recently from Joe Ridney here, Strangely Bright, and he recommended it, Habits of Grace. And so just seeing how important it is to cry out to God in prayer and listening to him in prayer, and then obviously being part of a local church, crucial to our spiritual health. And so the last question, of course, is, so books, what do we do with them? I would say I wouldn't recommend, if he actually did commit adultery and all of that, I wouldn't recommend his material. However, especially for those of us that maybe have known him through his books or preaching, maybe not known him personally, but you really have this shock and this just, man, I was really blessed by a lot of his material. Maybe this book, I'm not saying to throw it away. I'm saying we could still benefit greatly from these books, but just be careful. Have wisdom. Now that if it is the case that he fell into this sin and he's disqualified, we are not to recommend to other believers his material just because of the stumbling block aspect in 1 Corinthians. We definitely don't want a new convert to just obviously get the book, hear about his adultery, hear about just that he's not in a qualified to be an elder or teacher, and so we want to be consistent with our with, of course, the Word of God and with what we're teaching other people. And so if we're going to be consistent, and if we were to say this person is no longer qualified to be an elder at a church. Therefore, he shouldn't be preaching. And so if we're recommending his preaching or his books, we're kind of being inconsistent there. And then, of course, obviously that new convert really would want to have a godly example, right? Paul says, imitate me as I imitate Christ. And so elders that fall into that sin aren't that example. And like I said, we shouldn't necessarily go and recommend all their books. But if you're a believer, you have been grounded in the Word of God, you are mature in the faith, and you are able to understand, okay, I'm going to get some truth out of this book, and I know what happened. I know he fell. However, I am not going to go and recommend it to other people, but I am going to get something out of it from the book. I can say, at least there, you're being more consistent. But I also understand for those that just don't want to do anything with the material, if they're convicted that way, okay. But yes, let's keep praying for Brother Stephen. God bless.